The digital space is like a bottomless pit. As we scroll through our social media feeds every day, everything converges and unfolds endlessly. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Ever wondered who filters out the noise, weeds out the harmful content to ensure that you are safe from the dark world? The content moderators, otherwise known as the superheroes of the digital spaces. They are the gatekeepers who shield you from harm's way.
We were exposed to everything that was distressing in the internet.
But while in the line of duty, behind every click, these silent warriors grapple with psychological trauma.
I had problem with sleeping.
My name is Stephanie Wangari. I'm a digital reporter. And in this report, I'll show you the dark side of content moderation. In the peak era of artificial intelligence, Summersource, a US-based business process outsourcing company, contracted Richard Mathenge as a content moderator. Mathenge was tasked to lead and train a team of moderators that would be involved in sifting through and cleaning up OpenAI's ChatGPT content in 2021. For months, Mathenge and his team poured through tons of violent and explicit content.
So if I wanted to search on ChatGPT today how I can commit murder, is it something that I would find?
So back then in 2021, when we were moderating content for ChatGPT, we moderated content for sexual content as well as violent content. So the content that we moderated was sort of like being flagged off from usage or inquiry or any encounter with future interactors on this platform.
We did a demonstration and ChatGPT was quick to tell us,
I can't assist with that. If you're struggling with difficult feelings or impulses, it's important to seek help from a trusted friend, family member, or mental health professional.
Some of the harmful content Mathenge and his team had to deal with included child sexual abuse, murder, torture, self-harm, among others.
The targets were so exaggerated that we were meant to do at least between 250 content in one day and 350. So that for sure just gives you a picture of how disturbed, and this content is not brief as you might think. The content were very long and very disturbing. And just as I indicated initially, that this content had most of it or most of them were child pornography and child sex. And when you read that content, it becomes disturbing.
Slowly, he started sinking psychologically. Having moderated a lot of explicit content on children, the 38-year-old found himself projecting paranoid narratives onto them, even in his neighborhood.
I will look at the children. I will see the children running to me, because that's how they are within the court or within the estate. They just run to me. And when they run to me, the flashback resurrect that which I read in my line of duty about this young child. And this for sure became something traumatic and something very disturbing. And for me, I decided this will continue to be traumatic as long as I don't reach out to God.
His team members would call him late in the night, confiding they were unable to sleep, and after some time, he started noticing some behavioral change among them.
You just notice some very strange mannerisms that they have employed in the course of duty. So you're very quick to see or to join the dots and say, she was not like this when we started off.
We meet Kings Korodi, a father of one. He was yet another moderator for OpenAI's ChatGPT. He had been employed by Semasos.
Before the training, we were given an NDA to sign. But that NDA we were supposed to sign it without knowing the contents of the project. So at that point, we didn't know the effects, because even the exam we did, there were just 2-3 lines, just descriptive of some things in maybe people in a sexual scenario. But after signing the contract and when we began the project is when we realized it's a whole different thing from what we expected.
Months later, Korodi says that content about children that he moderated for the chatbot has not left his mind.
Okay, the content I moderated that actually disturbed my mind, actually it's like he gave me a mental torture, was all about children, because we had ways on how to classify them. So the content towards children was the one which was most hurting, because in life we tend to live, and at some point we could love a young one. So when you see a young one being molested or being exploited, it eats your inner soul.
And in no time, Korodi noticed that his sleep patterns were changing.
As time went by, I started dreaming about the things that I'm reading. So it deprived me of sleep. So at times you are sleeping and something comes in your mind. It's like you are there. So you wake up. When you experience such things, you try maybe to pray over it so that it can get over you.
The father of one says that content he moderated has had long-standing impact on his mental health.
That kind of content, it changes you as a person, because this is not what you are used to. So while reading these things, it also affects your mental state. So by the time it affects your mental state, you fall into depression without you even knowing. So at that point, you try maybe to go and seek for antidepressants. But the antidepressants also, they assist, but they assist to a certain magnitude. And also, there are different kinds of antidepressants. So you are, at that time I was able to buy the antidepressants that could fit my pocket.
In their petition, they want the National Assembly to enact legislation regulating outsourcing of harmful technology work and protecting workers who are engaged through such arrangements. The moderators also want the Occupation Health Act amended to include exposure to harmful content as an occupational hazard. The National Assembly has since acknowledged receipt of the petition. We contacted Semasos, which now goes by the name Sama, for a right of response. In a statement, Sama said it did not wish to comment since it had already exited content moderation in March of 2023. Further, the company noted it did not complete its pilot project with OpenAI and it does not currently work on ChatGPT.
Power to recall a judgment before.
Massimo Temi, a digital rights lawyer here in Nairobi, has been at the forefront of advocating for better jobs from big tech to the Kenyan youth. She is currently representing former content moderators in court.
If I'm saying that this human is being exposed to video after video of beheadings and people being murdered and abused and children being molested, that's what they're consuming. That's their JD. So if you think about an 8-hour shift, you're going into the office and from the first video to the last video you're reviewing is the worst of humanity, then you start to understand that this is a dangerous job. On paper, it doesn't seem like anything harmful. It seems like something prestigious. I'm doing work for Meta, I'm doing work for TikTok. But in the real sense, this is work that can damage you.
President William Ruto recently launched the Summersource offices at Mombasa Road here in Nairobi. He noted that Summersource would continue to provide digital jobs for young Kenyans. While the government continues to attract these jobs,
a facility called Constituency Development Fund will now be used to set up such hubs across the country so that the many young people out of school, out of college, out of university can have an opportunity to interact with internet, with computers, and with e-commerce, and to be able to access digital jobs.
Mutemi says it is important for Parliament to look into the quality of the work the youth are doing.
ChatGPT, if you think about it, this is the shiny new toy everybody's excited about. I see nowadays when people are making presentations and projecting their PowerPoints, the first thing you see is ChatGPT. So everybody's now adapting ChatGPT use. And here are Kenyan youths telling Parliament, we moderated the algorithm for this fancy new toy and it destroyed our lives. Because day in, day out, what we were doing is we were reading the worst forms of sexual abuse and teaching the algorithm how to understand these forms of sexual abuse so that they can avoid it. Important work, yes. Dangerous work, yes. But what was the working environment like? What were the protections in place? What was the psychiatric care that was provided for them while they were doing this important work? And that's where this conversation needs to head to.
Caroline Gishie, a clinical psychologist at the Mental Hub, says watching violent content can result in trauma, which could cause mental disturbances.
If whatever you watch overwhelms your body and your brain's ability to cope with it, then you become traumatized. Yeah. So if you become traumatized, it could result in several things. It could result in acute trauma, which can happen just from seeing one event that really is very distressing and disturbing to you. And once people now get into that level of now you're at PTSD level, then there are several symptoms that come with it. They're usually re-experiencing symptoms where someone who has gone through a traumatic event starts seeing flashbacks of the event. You can see flashbacks in your mind. Sometimes you may just start experiencing, even like when you think about that event, you start experiencing physical symptoms. You start having heart palpitations. You start feeling distressed. You might even start having feelings of wanting to isolate, paranoia about other human beings. You might experience the nightmares.
TikTok is a platform where Kenya is considered as a top user in the world, according to statistics by Reuters in 2023. There has been some discontent among some Kenyans who say inappropriate content is posted on the app. James Oyange, known to his colleagues as Mojis, was among moderators tasked with preventing disturbing and explicit content from appearing on TikTok. Mojis had been employed by Majorel, a business process outsourcing company.
There was a job opening for the company I was working for at that time, Majorel, and when I applied for it, I was applying as a call center agent or a call center representative. Swahili speaking call center agent. And we know that as a call center agent, you are dealing with things to do with customer reviews, blah, 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 right? So for me, that's what I had applied for. And when even I was going into the interview, that's what I knew I was going to get myself into. Like, that's the job that I was going to do. It was when we were doing the interview, I was just being introduced very lightly on the concept of content moderation without really knowing what it is.
For 9 hours, 5 times a week, Mojis, just like the ChatGPT moderators, moderated content that touched on child abuse, suicide, murder, torture, among others. As a result of the work, Moji says he developed insomnia as well as other mental disturbances.
I was so afraid to go to sleep, right? Because there's something about the human mind or the human brain that makes you be in the position of the video that you are moderating. So we have insomnia, we have the general health of the body, the weight reducing and everything, the weight loss. Then now we have PTSD, because these videos, once you moderate them, they still linger in your mind. Like, it's very difficult for it to leave. So for me, I usually like sometimes watching the local matches, EPL or even KPL. I'm a big Gor Mahia fan, and also EPL, right? So you see, when you're in a stadium physically, or even listening to it virtually, there's a way the stadium people like usually shout and everything. So for me, because I've been prone to listening to audio material of people screaming for help, people being burnt inside the house and screaming for help and everything, or people being tortured inside the house, being burnt. So the mind automatically equates that scream from the stadium to that. So you already have a panic attack over there.
Although Moji says he didn't know what he was getting himself into initially, his stay in the company, he says, was to keep other internet users safe.
I took it as a personal initiative to make sure that I do the work, no matter how bad it was, right? We have soldiers, our own soldiers, the KDF, the GSU, who know what they're signing up, to when they're working, right? They know that once they start this job, you might not come back once you have gone to fight to defend your country, right? So they know. So for me, even me, I knew the harms that come with the work, but it would have been better if I take the bullet for the general masses.
We reached out to Majorel to offer a right of response to claims made by moderators such as Moji's. In a first ever kind of arrangement, Majorel invited us to their offices for a guided tour on what content moderation entailed. We were not allowed to film, at least not when the work was ongoing. Majorel Kenya CEO Sivendi Carter said this was a procedure to ensure their clients' data was protected. Sivan told KTN News that most of the content was moderated by AI systems before being passed on human moderators to handle whatever AI could not moderate.
It is really a detail of what the AI actually does, but what the AI cannot distinguish, it will come to a moderator. So to have that human overview and cross-checking as well.
The CEO dismissed claims that moderators did not know the kind of work they were signing up for.
It is very clear from the onset what the job actually entails. And I also want to distinguish here, it is we really have to understand that the content that comes through is not really hardcore. I would say we need to understand that the AI system is already so good that the severity of cases is very much distinguished and minimized to the minimum.
Kenya continues to be a global hotspot for tech jobs. A survey by Kenya Private Sector Alliance, KEPSA, in 2021 showed that at least 1.2 million Kenyans work online. All that is needed for one to be a content moderator is good language skills and a good use of the internet, hence suitable for graduates transitioning into the job market. We asked Sivan what his company was doing to ensure these young Kenyans' mental health was supported.
There is a whole framework which actually supports the well-being of agents, okay? And this is not something that starts while they're on production. This is actually starts when they're getting interviewed and recruited, okay? So they are going through assessments, they go through validations, they do tests, they also get a pre-screening before they actually go into training. So there is a whole support system that supports the agent's life cycle and the work they are actually doing as a content moderator. And there is also a mental assessment that gets done by a qualified counselor and psychotherapist to make sure that people will be able to cope.
But what would be a middle ground for both big tech and the moderators?
We have to take the comparisons. I think if we look at police officers or we look at people in the army, they also see bad content. So what are the issues there. So I think we provide as much support as we can here, and we will work with any agent that has issues, okay? I think it is very important to acknowledge that it is a job that comes with some risks, but at the end of the day, it's about how we deal with it and walk through the journey with them.
More than 200 former content moderators are suing Facebook and Summersource here in Nairobi. They want financial compensation, alleging poor working conditions, which includes insufficient mental health support and low wages. They got a win when Justice Matthew Nduma ruled that Meta, Facebook's parent company, could be sued in Kenya. If the Kenyan moderators won the case, it would not be the first time Facebook is settling such kind of workers. In 2021, Facebook agreed to pay a settlement of 6 billion shillings in a court case in California. In the suit, the moderators said the company failed to protect workers tasked with moderating disturbing content from the grave mental impact of the job.
So what would you consider a solution?
Solution-wise, things to do with treating the content moderators, because this job that we are doing is very, very important. And I don't know if the companies that we're working for or the parent companies, I don't know if they know this or they don't, or they are assuming. The work of content moderation is very, very important and very vital. Make sure that they are being given proper psychiatric help, right? I understand we need to have like wellness doctors and everything, but at least set aside even 1, 2, 3 psychiatric doctors who are able to diagnose and to offer help, right? If in case somebody is suffering from a psychiatric issue.
But Seven and Mutemi agreed that the employment law in Kenya is very robust in protecting workers. However, they say nuances are now cropping up in the wake of advancing technology.
I think in Kenya, it's a tricky question, thank you. So I think we follow the full Kenyan labor law, okay? I think there is still confusion, and the confusion doesn't lie in the labor law, actually, in the contract more than anything. We are the employers of the agents. We are the ones that take care of them. We have a contract with our client, yes? I think that's where the confusion lies in a labor law perspective, yes? I think we can refer to current cases and past cases. If you look at the case itself, it doesn't add up.
Our understanding of what occupational health has meant up to this point has included understanding harm, physical harm to the entire body, the eye, the face, the palm, the legs, losing a limb. But we haven't conceptualized mental health as mental health harm.
Dr. Musa Nyandusi, the Secretary of Occupational Safety and Health in the Ministry of Labour, says employers have a responsibility to provide a safe working environment for their employees.
In the same principle of physical hazard, the same issues of risk assessment for every work is expected to be conducted, and a safe procedure be defined on how to safely conduct this job. The unique issues that might come up in a setting such as this one might actually include the choice of the persons who are going to be doing this work. In the same way you're going to be choosing people through medical examinations, entry medical examinations, you would also be having the same process of selecting these persons who have the kind of mental robustness for them to do this work. As well as that, you would have to have a process of periodically looking at these people to see what this work has affected them.
Nyandusi, however, says the government has recognized some loopholes with the occupational safety and health policy.
We have recognized the big challenge we are facing in the workplace in terms of mental health. And indeed, we have an opportunity where we are currently undertaking stakeholder review of our national occupational safety and health policy to speak more with more clarity on issues of mental health in the workplace, as well as other aspects of work which previously were not defined in the policy, which include issues such as gig work, platform work, working from home, and new challenges that we are seeing in the workplace.
KTN News also reached out to OpenAI and ByteDance to offer a right of response, but they were yet to respond by the time of going to press. In the ever-evolving digital landscape, creating a safer and sustainable environment for those working behind the scenes must remain a priority. And even as the government continues to source for these digital opportunities, it is important for existing laws to be strengthened to ensure a conducive environment for both the employers and the employees. Stephanie Wangari, KTN News.